Hi there, this is Dean Packham. Thanks for tuning into this podcast today. I'm with my good friend, Dave Betts. Dave and I have been friends since 1996. We've been through many of life's storms and we're still standing, which is great. And I'm privileged really to have Dave with me here, just to give some insight in terms of starting your own business. Now, just to give you some background, Dave is one of the directors of a company, Energy Drive, that was started 9 years ago. And I'm just asking Dave, Dave, if you can give us some insight into the company and how you started the company, because you are one of the founders of the company. Give me some kind of background as to how things got started.
Sure.
4 years ago.
Dean, thanks for having me. It's always good to chat. And so Energy Drive. Well, it started. So my background as electrical engineer, and then had a career change. Spent many years in the ministry. Can you believe it? And then exited the ministry and found myself in South Africa. And I was then working for an electrical company that specialized in a thing called variable speed drives, basically a tool to save power on motors. And I saw an opportunity in South Africa where the electricity price was growing, and this device could save people power. So I thought, this is a no-brainer. I'll try and sell this box, and of course, people will just buy them in their hundreds. And very quickly realized that there were four key objections as to why they wouldn't. So the first was money. They didn't have the capex to do it, even though they wanted to. No one could really test whether or measure. There wasn't a real way of measuring it. Thirdly, they distrusted the technology, and if it was to fail, the downtime would cause problems. And then lastly, finding engineers with the technology or the engineering skills. So there were these barriers that just kept coming up. Like I guess any good entrepreneur, when you're facing with the same barriers, you ask yourself the question, well, there must be a solution to overcome these barriers. And if I can find a solution, then we've got a business. And so sit down, and interesting, what happened was I was sitting in a reception area waiting for a meeting, and this photocopier sales guy came in, and he was trying to sell it to the receptionist, which is a rookie mistake to make. But anyway, so he was telling the receptionist, I know you want the photocopier, but you can't afford it because no one's got the capex. However, what we'll do is we'll put a photocopier in your office, and you only pay for the copies that you make. And a light bulb went on above my head, and suddenly thought, well, here's my business. If I can find someone to loan me a few million rand, we could buy these, put them in a factory, and then the client would basically, we would get a fee out of a portion of what we save. And so that really was the beginning of Energy Drive all those years ago.
Brilliant, thanks, Dave. So just to kind of recap, you saw the chance to do something that wasn't being done. Did you put together a business plan? Was it detailed? Was it just not really detailed? How did you actually get the finance and the leverage to get things moving?
Great. So I think the first lesson I'm gonna put in here retrospectively is learn what you're good at and know what you're not good at. So I met a good friend of mine. He's also a fellow director, a guy called Mike Ward, and he was particularly good at looking at things commercially. He's a spreadsheet genius. And I sat down with him, and we had a cup of coffee, and I just laid out this idea. And he, over the next 12 hours, went away and built this whole commercial model, something that I'm just totally me and spreadsheets. Phones me back the next day and said, we've got to make this business work. So I think the first thing that I did right was that I didn't try to do the whole thing myself. I didn't try to build the model myself, whatever. I was working with someone who actually did understand commercially how this thing could work. And I was then able to be in my best sphere, which is really just seeing an opportunity and working out how I could sell this idea. So the two of us really made a good connection. That's how it first started.
Brilliant, wonderful. Okay. Yeah. And then obviously just a small issue that most business owners, how did you raise, or all this money?
Well, yeah, that is the problem. Fortunately, Mike, again, it comes down to it's not what you know, it's who you know. Mike happened to have met a number of businessmen who had done very, very well in mining. And they were looking for opportunities, like all good businessmen, to put excess capital to work for them. And they were looking for ideas. And so I got the opportunity to pitch to these guys my idea, or our idea. And they took a punt on us. They gave us our first $1 million, which is today about £100,000 or so, and said, prove it to us, make it work, you know. So I think the second key was, firstly, know what your strengths are and bolster them up. And second is find people that are willing to take a risk on you. And here's the key. A lot of entrepreneurs want to hold on to the lion's share of the shareholding. They want the 80% of the pie. But we were faced with these guys who said to us, well, what we'll do, we will finance you, but let's do an even split of shares.
Okay.
So we all took an exactly the same, even I was bringing an idea, they were bringing money, someone else was bringing a thing.
Right, okay.
And I think that is something we did right at the beginning.
Sure.
Was
okay.
We weren't greedy at the beginning for the shareholders.
That sounds really good. Wonderful. It sounds good. Okay. So, so kind of fast forward to now, maybe give me one or two big lessons that you've learned, things that you might have done differently that you could save someone else time on.
Yeah, so I could probably keep you going for hours on this one.
I'm sure.
Let's summarize it. Number one, prepare for war in times of peace.
Okay.
Always, I say this to entrepreneurs I speak to, shareholders agreement, put a shareholders agreement in place right at the very beginning, because everyone wants to be friendly when there's no money in the business. But when your business becomes successful and there's money to be had, now relationships can change. And let's be honest, every business is going to have some difficulties in the boardroom. And what helps navigate those difficulties is a very good shareholders agreement and a memorandum of understanding. So do that part of it well. I love that phrase, prepare for war in times of peace. The reason we have good contracts, good shareholders agreements, is they form a framework to have these good conversations that ultimately get us out of conflict. So that would be one of the lessons. Number two, always seek for ways of reinventing how you're doing it. In Energy Drive over the last 9 years, we must have reinvented our approach a number of times. And every time we reinvent, we're challenging ourselves. How can we present this better? How can we do this better? Is the messaging still the right messaging? And so we took the same core product, which we're still doing now, but we've found different ways of marketing it and growing it. And then the third thing is to always make sure that what you're doing is scalable. And anything that isn't scalable, cut it out as soon as you possibly can, because those things become the roadblocks to success in a business. Is this new idea scalable? If it's not scalable, we don't do it. It's a very nice little test that we've had to do as we've gone along.
Okay, brilliant. Thanks, David. Sounds good. So I was just wanting to ask you one more question because we're running short on time. So you've moved back to Britain, which is excellent.
Yep.
So now you're head of sales in terms of Britain and Europe, which is wonderful. And I know that we've been talking recently because, like all of us, you're now down to speaking to prospects via Zoom or via phone calls. How much of it do you think? So how much of selling your products or services is down to the strength of the product or the service? And how much of it is down to the person doing the actual selling, would you say, from what you found?
So a saying that I've said as long as I can remember is people buy into people first and secondly into a product.
Yeah.
If you don't come over with integrity, trustworthy, you don't come over warm, you don't have empathy, people don't feel that you understand them first and foremostly, it doesn't matter how good your product is, you're off to a bad wicket. So, and I think also day and age now, video calling like we are, you don't have all the nice social cues that you get when you're sitting in a meeting or the body language. So you have to be even more intentional, making sure that people understand that you actually are more concerned about them, their issues, and they feel that, genuinely feel that from you. so that they then can be willing to accept these new ideas or this new product. Asking someone to change from brand A to brand B is not just a head issue, it's also a heart issue. And people will only be able to make that transition if the bridge is you, and you are seen as a bridge of integrity.
Okay, wow. So that's good to know. So even with your company where you've got 50, 60 staff and you're sort of selling in different continents as well, it still comes down to the fact that people buy from people, and it's you as a person. People have to know you, like you, trust you, and that kind of thing. Yeah, brilliant.
Absolutely.
Dave, thank you for your time. I'm conscious that we're finished now. Great for this time, Dave. Thanks a lot. And hope you have a good week coming up. Many thanks for your time.
Cheers, Dean, and thanks for the call.
Bye.
Great.